Is going to teach you all kinds of good things about money. So, and so that I don't take up any more of his time, Ira Green.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is a very friendly crowd. I'm glad to be here. Let me just take a second and see you all in your underwear. Hold on. Okay. I feel better now. Okay. Let me tell you how I got here. Last year, I came to the celebration with my wife, who brought me into the business and to look around and see what was going on. I came up and I was enchanted by everybody I saw and the whole process here. And I really loved all the speakers, and I thought it was a great company. And I'd been in the business 13 years as a stockbroker and a financial planner with a large New York brokerage firm, Dean Witter. And I went on a rafting trip after my time here the next week with Daryl and Marta and John Robbins and a few other people. And during that week, I had a lot of time to talk with them, and I got a real sense of their vision and their character and their integrity. And I suddenly realized on this rafting trip, going through rapids with these guys and playing on the river, that I could really make a difference with my life and do something else if I chose to. And I didn't have to be stuck in the corporate world and continue in a job that was keeping me away from my family hours after, all day long, literally. So I went back, and my wife and I talked, and we decided, she decided she's going for Double Diamond. And this was around December, January. She said, I'm going for Double Diamond. Let's get together and decide and do it. And I said, okay, then I'll quit July 1st, so you got to be a Double Diamond by June. And she did. And I'm unemployed as of last month. And it feels great. It feels great. I love it. Anyways, when you get the commitment, what really, really surprised me was what the universe does to you when you decide something like this. It kind of tests you. And I didn't know this. I'm in town a week before I'm about to quit last month, and Merrill Lynch comes into town, calls me up and says, we want to take you to lunch. So I said, okay, the Japanese restaurant. So they take me to lunch, and over sushi, this guy says, I'm a recruiter. We've heard about you in town, and we want you to come over and head our office here in town. We want to open up an office. We want you to bring all your clients and take anybody else you can and just decimate your old office, and we'll give you $255,000 up front, which we'll forgive as a loan for 3 years. In other words, each year they'll forgive a third of it. And then we'll give you a guaranteed salary for 3 months of $20,000. And we'll give you a 50% payout, which is what they pay you on what you bring in for the next year. And I was going on about, it's time to change and vision and new life. And I suddenly had 300,000 reasons why I wanted to stay a stockbroker. And I realized, though, that it was my particular test to see if I really was committed to changing my life and living with my family and having breakfast with my kids and being home and working the business. And anyways, I didn't take him up on it. So, and luckily, a couple nights ago at the Double Diamond cocktail party, Daryl had a couple beers, and we were talking. And if I understood him right, I think he said something about the $300,000 would be matched if things didn't work out. Was that it? Okay. I thought that's what he said, but I wasn't sure. Okay. I've told my wife a number of times that when I die, she is not to trust any stockbrokers. I've told her that a lot. And now that I'm out of business, it still holds true to some extent. I want to tell you that in the economy we have today and the way things are, you really have to do a little bit of research and you really have to look at things pretty carefully because things are not like they used to be. Things move really fast, as you probably are all aware, and markets move very, very quickly. This is great. I love you all. This is just marvelous. It's a real chance to tell you the truth, you know. My firm always kept me handcuffed, literally. I could never say what I really believed in a group. It was not allowed. I'd be fired and, banned from trading. The SEC would close me down. You just can't say negative things. You can't really tell people even what you really think because the firms all have proprietary relationships with all the firms out there. Every brokerage firm, every bank, they all have proprietary relationships going on. So they can never be negative on something. If they are, that firm they were negative on will never do business with them again, investment banking or whatever. So it's rare that a stockbroker will come and say, well, this is what I really think. Mostly what we're trained to do is to sell proprietary packages of products that firms put together, which they think you're going to like or which are hot for the moment. And I had a little bit of leeway because I was a financial planner, so I could pretty much do what I wanted, and I was a big gorilla, so they left me alone. But let me just tell you what's going on. We live in a market economy which is primarily working with auction marketplaces. All the exchanges, the New York Stock Exchange, the American, the over-the-counter, they're all auctions where people buy and sell securities. The simplest security is a stock, okay? A stock is very simple. You have basically dividends, you have a right to be kept informed, and you try to get capital appreciation. You try and get your money to go up. The other main security in the United States are bonds. Those are loans. They're basically notes. They're loans to an issuer. And there's different kinds of bonds. Government are the main ones, corporates and municipals. And I'm not going to get too technical with all these things. I'm just going to kind of bring you up to date as to what they are. A lot of people these days are being told to buy bond funds. Oh, let me go into mutual funds. Mutual funds are simply collections of these two items, stocks or bonds. Okay? I've had people come into my office and they say to me, Mr. Green, we don't want to take any risk at all. We don't want any stocks or bonds. We want one of those mutual funds we keep hearing about. Okay? And, I keep trying to tell them, hey, mutual funds are nothing but collections of stocks and bonds that a manager with a philosophy manages. That's all they are. And the mutual funds tend to move like herds of dinosaurs. Because of computer trading now, if anything happens, they all just go one way. Okay? And so you either get out of the way or you go with them, or things move very quickly now. And so you really have to pay attention. There was a time you could go out and buy a utility stock 25 years ago and just sit on it and just wait. And it's going to split and pay you dividends, and eventually you're going to do great. You can't do that anymore. Things have changed. That utility might have a problem and suddenly, and you lose money. People are always asking me, what's safe? The best business you can be in is this. There is no question about it. I have no doubt that my $300,000 will come back through this. This works. Network marketing is the business for the 90s. There is no question about it. It meets all of the criteria that have been set out by all the different analysts, from Faith Popcorn on. It meets everything, from cocooning at your home to working over the phone. So this is definitely what you want to be doing, and you want to do it now. It doesn't matter if the economy is going up or down. This will work because of the nature of it. Okay? All the big companies know this. They're all trying to move into it. And I can tell you that companies that are not doing well here in the United States are going overseas now and doing it. And there's a number of network marketing companies that are just expanding everywhere. And a lot of the corporations are looking at it as something to get into. In fact, my own corporate structure, they were even talking about it. I can tell you that in the culture I came from, it was very different. When I would get in the office every morning, the thing was sell, get out there, do it. I'd get memos on my desk. I want to give you an idea of the kind of memos the person you're talking to gets. This is a typical memo. I'd come in the morning, and there'd be a thing on my desk just in from New York over the wire. And it would say something like this: remember the lion and the gazelle. Each day a gazelle on the African plains wakes up and knows that it has to outrun the fastest lion or it's going to be lunch. Each day a lion wakes up, and that lion knows that it has to outrun the slowest gazelle or it's not going to eat that day. So you folks sitting out there, this is what they would say to us: whether or not you're a lion or gazelle, when you get in that office in the morning, you start running. Okay? We don't have to do that. Okay? But that's the kind of energy that's out there. You're probably aware of this. That's the kind of mentality you're dealing with. If people don't produce a certain amount in that culture, they're out. It's, that's the way it is. They're out. Anyways, let me, I don't want to get too technical, because if I do, you're all going to fall asleep, and I don't have enough of this here. Anyways, this is great. I have a chance to look foolish and tell you the truth. It's just marvelous. This is it's so different. It's just so different. Anyways, so I'm not going to get into this too much. Let me just give you a quick, I talked to my friend about this. He said I should tell you guys what I really think, and I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go a little bit into economics. Whenever I think of economics in this country, I start thinking of The Music Man, where Robert Preston's on there and he's going, yes, we got trouble, right here in River City. And it's capital T and it rhymes with G, and that stands for Greenspan. Okay? And yeah, we do have some problems. And we've got nothing but political cowards in Washington. And they won't tell the special interest groups, no, you can't have something for nothing, And most of you out here know that you can't cheat reality by overspending. If you guys balance your checkbook, you know that that's economics. Every month you can't keep spending more than you take in. The bank doesn't like it. What's happening with our government is, it's like you guys having 2 credit cards every month, okay? You start to do your checking and everything else, and all of a sudden, you get a little over and you don't know what to do. So you go ahead and you use your credit card and you pay a little extra that month. Then you have the other credit card and you pay the bill with that one. Then the next month you pay the bill with that one. You go back and forth for a few months. Bank thinks you're a wonderful customer. They keep raising your credit limits. And then at night you start waking up with anxiety attacks because you've got all this debt building up. Well, our government is borrowing money from the public through the Federal Reserve, and it's a debt junkie. And the Fed is the pusher. Think of it in those terms. The Federal Reserve is basically running the country and most of the economy. The Federal Reserve is a group of 12 banks, district banks all over the United States, with governors that meet on a board, and they have an arm that goes out there and does things for them called the Federal Open Market Committee. And they buy and sell government securities every single day on the markets. Let's hold questions till I get to the end. And so They go out, they buy and sell these securities, and because they do that, it affects interest rates and everything else. And they have a number of interest rates that you hear about all the time. You hear about these things called the Fed funds rate and the discount rate, and these are just the rates they're playing with each other on. You know, banks borrowing from each other or banks borrowing from the Fed. The banks are basically making the middle, okay, to get you your money. And so what's going on is Greenspan and his group sit down and they decide which way the economy is going to go. Well, for a while now, for the last 3 years, they have been dropping rates pretty dramatically. Roughly 24 times they affected the markets. And in January, a decision was made to turn things. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the cycle, whatever, because things do move in cycles. But they did decide to change the way things are going. And so they started raising interest rates. Okay? Now that affects everything. And I'm going to detail that a little bit right now. I just want to go on to tell you, we're sitting right now, just as a background, why the dollar is going down, because this is also affected. We're sitting right now with $4.5 trillion in debt. Now all of you saw Perot during the campaign coming on TV and going, this debt is like having a crazy aunt locked in the basement. You know, you never let her out, you don't talk about her, but she's there. Well, the national debt is like that. We've got $4.5 trillion in national debt. We've also got $13 trillion off the books. What do I mean by that? This is cute. I love government accounting. I wish I could do it, except they'd arrest me for fraud. It's great. It's just great. It's great. The best accounting methods in the world, but my accountant says I can't use them. Anyways, they've got unfunded government, military, government employee pensions, as well as Social Security. All the money we pay in for Social Security the first 5-6 months of the year, they take that and use it for current expenses. They leave IOUs in there. Okay? That's why the big push to set up retirement plans. They're not convinced it'll work down the road. It takes 4 of us to pay for 1 person today. When our generation gets a little older, there'll be like 1 of us to support 3 people. So it's going to be a little bit rough for Social Security with all these IOUs sitting there. Anyways, right now, 50 cents of every dollar that the government's taking in is going to fixed entitlements. That means they go to things like Social Security, Medi-Cal, everything that's fixed. 20 to 25 cents of every dollar goes to interest. Okay, that's interest on the national debt. That's money we're paying out all over the world to everyone who owns our treasury securities, which have primarily been created from and put out there. Okay? So we owe a lot of money now, and $3 trillion of this debt was created in the last 13 years, especially under Reagan. Okay? And so now the Cold War's over, and the national debt, just as I was speaking this sentence, just rose $40,000, just so you know how quick. It's about 13,000 a second, 47 million an hour. Okay, that's our debt. So I just want you to know why the dollar is doing what the dollar is doing, which is going down. And it's going down, and it just broke post-war lows against the Japanese yen and a number of other currencies because the rest of the world understands this. They got it. They know, the Japanese, the Germans, they know about debt and what it does. They know how it works. They've seen inflation, they've seen recession, they've seen how things go. So they realize that when you keep overspending every month on a continual basis for 30 or 40 years, and you just keep doing this and you build this massive debt structure, your currency, which is basically a fiat currency, that means it's created with nothing behind it, just the full faith and credit. When they see this, they recognize it. So Perot was not far off on that particular subject. Some other subjects he was far off, but on that one, you know, he had that right. It is a crazy old aunt you've got locked in the basement. And it's, you know, you got to deal with her at some point. Do something. Anyways, oh, here's another one. I just saw this the other day. The Clinton budget for '95. This really surprised me. Here's what they've got planned for taxes. Right now, the highest tax rate is about 39.6 for people earning over $250,000. Take in the state of California state tax, and you've got a 50% rate now. Okay, that's pretty high. But this is great. In the budget that just came out, in the appendix, which nobody looks at, at the very end, they decided to issue a figure on what they thought the next generation would pay taxes at. Okay, they had to put down a figure, a specific figure they thought in the next 20 years people would be paying taxes at. The number was 82%. That's written there, by the way, in the budget. So I thought, now this is interesting. This definitely, we got trouble. Anyways, so all of us can make a difference with this. It's not hopeless. We can change it. First of all, we can change the people we elect. We can become more aware of what's going on with money, with the economy. It's not a foreign subject. Most people fall asleep when people talk to you about it. You don't want to hear it. They don't teach true economics in school. They don't want to let you know what's going on. The government can do this because you're all in the dark, primarily. And as information begins to accelerate and people begin to hear what's going on, they start making changes in their politicians. They start electing people who will do things to change things. And we can, each of us, make a difference. And this business, which you can create here, can give you enough money to make a difference because, money does talk in those circles. They do listen. And you can make differences in just your community, just the people who are running your local board, okay, your school board, the people running your city, your town, whatever it is. Anyways, enough on that subject. That's enough on the economy. Everybody's still awake? Good. Okay. Anyways, enough. Back to that. Yes. This is the stock market in a nutshell. You can't really read it too well, but it goes back to 1970 down here, all the way up to the present time. The market, the Dow Jones is an average of 30 stocks, but it generally gives you an overview of what's going on with the corporate structure of the United States. And as you can see, we've had an incredible rise. We hit almost 4,000. We got to about 39.85, and that was quite recent. 39.85, the Dow Jones is a combination of 30 various stocks that they average out. And they come up with this average, and they use this point measure to reflect that average. That's primarily what it is. And we've gone from a low of like 700 back in 82 up to a high of almost 4,000. 700 is the 700 is the average of these 30 stocks. In other words, you take 30 stocks and you average them out, you figure out everything on them, the price earnings, how they're balanced, and you use this formula to figure out what their true value would be as a group. And 700 was that number. And for many, many years, 1,000 was the top the market couldn't get through. Back in the 60s, the Nifty 50, as they called it, IBM, GE, and all the other big stocks, got up to 1,000 and then dropped back to the 700 level. In 82, we started this bull market, which we've been in for many, many years, and now we're up to almost 4,000. Okay? And everything you hear now is stock. People come into my office, they're going to get rich on stock. Every commercial you turn on is mutual funds, stock, international, diversify. I mean, it's like outrageous. And this was the cover of June Money. There's a bull on there. You know the bull and the bear? Oh, I got to tell you this one. The bull and the bear. When Wall Street had a field in front of it, there used to be a bull across the way. Right? This is the story. This is what they tell us new little brokers when we get in the business. There used to be a bull that was roaming out in the field. And one day this guy came in from his ship leading his pet bear. Right? Anyways, he wasn't paying attention. The bear got loose, got in the field with the bull. Okay, and all the brokers came out to watch the fight. Anyway, so the bull, with its horns, fights like this. It goes up, it gores up. And the bear, with its paws, goes down like this, right? The brokers all sat around and said, okay, up is the bull, down is the bear. Okay? That's where it came from. I want to point out that 75% of all the money committed to the stock market over the last 70 years, 75% of all the money in there has been committed in the last 3.5 years, above Dow 3,500. It's just a fact. I thought it was an interesting fact. 3,500 is about where I made that funny line up there on the right, the dark one. I don't know if you can see that out there, but yeah, this one right here. That's about it, 3,500. And we're right about here now, about 3,800. And this is interesting. Why is it interesting? Well, this is another market. This is the market that my mother told me was rock solid. She said I could never go wrong with utilities. My mother, by the way, was really interested in playing stocks and bonds for years. And I sat with her where they used to have the old ticker tape. And I used to watch it go by. They don't do that anymore. But anyways, this is utilities. Rock solid utilities. These are utilities. As of last October, they got up to a certain level. And ever since, they've just been, well, I mean, you can't really see the numbers too well, but you can kind of see the direction. Okay? That's utilities. Remember utilities? Everybody told you utilities the safest thing out there. PG&E, Southern California, Southern, they're great. Well, people in utilities have lost a minimum of 50% or more. That means it doesn't matter if you're getting a 7% dividend. You know, if you're losing 50%, you have a 7% dividend, it takes a while to make it up. People come into my office and they said, look, my aunt got this Ginnie Mae fund. It was going great. She bought it last year. It was wonderful. This Ginnie Mae fund was fantastic. It was earning just incredible amounts of money. She was making like 7.5% on it. She put in $100,000. It was her life savings, and they were paying her $7,500. And you know, and the broker told her, hey, no problem. You know, you don't have to pay any money up front. It's got this back-end load that they forgive you about every year. They drop it 1%. And he forgot to mention those management fees each year. You know. But anyways, you know, if you stay with it 6 years, there's no problem. Well, a year goes by, and Aunt Mary, you know, is trying to figure out why her statement shows her Ginnie Mae fund that she bought for $100 is worth $86,000. Well, it's real simple. Interest rates started going up. Okay? Real simple. These are U.S. Treasury bonds. U.S. Treasury bonds primarily are a reflection of interest rates. Okay? So what you've got over here, yeah, there we go. That's the peak we hit back, I guess it was, let's see, last October, around the 15th of last year. We got down to a low of 5.79 on 30-year Treasury bonds. That was the lowest point we have been at in roughly 21 years. That goes back a while. Low rates. Anyways, had you bought a bond that day on October 15th, or you put Aunt Mary into that 100,000 Ginnie Mae fund, Ginnie Mae's, by the way, are just government pools of mortgages. That's all it is. It's like a bond. It's just a pool of housing mortgages that pay interest and principal monthly, in case those of you don't know what a Ginnie Mae is. So you walk in, you bought a bond that day for $1,000. Bonds trade in $1,000 denominations. And you're going to get interest of about 5.79, 5.8. That's $58 a year. 2 payments a year. They're going to give you $58 a year. So that bond today has changed because interest rates have started moving down since Greenspan started raising rates. Now that may have been the low back there. If it was, and interest rates are on an upward course from here, no matter how long it takes, that bond today, if Aunt Mary went to sell it, is not worth $1,000, it's worth $800. Okay? Now, of course, if she holds it 30 years, she'll get her money back. Of course, the dollar she gets back in 30 years is not quite the same level as the dollar she put in. I guess all of you know about the dollar over 30 years, what it does. Okay. And that's the debt again. Remember that in the closet, the basement? Right. Okay. So if you buy a bond today, your interest rate is 7.24, about 7.25. So nobody's going to give you $1,000 for that bond you bought at 5.8. That's why everybody's been losing money since January in mutual funds and bond funds. That's the reason. Interest rates are going up. It's that simple. It's not complicated. They'd like you to think it's complicated. Greenspan rang the bell. He rang the bell. And I thought they didn't ring the bell, but he did it. And so we go back to this cover, remember? Buy stocks now. Okay? This is what they put out to get more money in, to keep it going. This was the hottest stock in history, the hottest stock ever, called Big Blue. You've heard of it. IBM was touted for the last, I don't know, since the 60s, 50s. It was the biggest, best stock around. It was one of the Nifty 50, and in 1987 hit a high of about 185, somewhere up in there. And in 1982, when I first was buying it, it was like 59. Okay, if you held it all those years till today, it's worth about 60 now. So, okay, that's the sign of what's going on. This was a leader. It's no longer a leader. Okay, I just want to emphasize that. It'll give you an idea of what's going on. So when people tell you, well, you should be buying stocks and bonds and mutual funds, and I'm a little negative right now. There are times when you should buy them, when they do very well. Stocks have done very well since the 30s. Had you been in after the big crash, got in after that and held your stocks, you would have averaged about 12% a year. Okay? And it wouldn't have mattered if you bought at highs or lows. But that was a long, long upward progression that we've had. We haven't had any major contractions. The government's been keeping us from doing that through artificial manipulation of interest rates and money. Okay? And we do have these cycles that are built in. We do have to have booms and busts, booms and busts. And we've been avoiding this one. And so we've got this debt problem, and we've got these other problems with the dollar. And the rest of the world knows this, by the way. It's clear to them. So what do I recommend right now? I'm going to quickly give you a couple recommendations. First thing that looks good, property. Property in rural communities. Any kind of property out there, get your hands on it, especially with good water. Outside of a small town, or small town outside of a big city an hour away, that's a good buy right now in a lot of places. You've got a fax, a modem, phone, you're set. Your business, you can be anywhere, can live any place. Okay? That's a good buy. If you do get a mortgage, try and get a 15-year so you pay off that interest quickly. If you can't, you need to get a 30-year. Make your payments bi-monthly. That way you pay an extra payment and you reduce your interest that way. Okay? If you want to if some of you are on fixed incomes and you need income securities, there is one stock I'd recommend right now. It's called Lakehead Pipelines, LHP. And what they do is they own the 1,100-mile-long U.S. portion of the oil and gas pipeline, which runs from Western Canada to Eastern Canada. Doesn't matter if you have inflation, depression, doesn't matter what you have, they're going to pay that dividend, that payment to you, because they just own the pipeline. Things, the oil has to flow through it. Those folks have to get that oil from West to East Canada. And that's paying about 8% right now. It's not a bad yield. So if those of you who need income, I'm recommending that. That's not a bad buy. That will not be affected too much by whatever happens. And they have enough cash in the bank to guarantee the distribution through 97. So not much risk in that either. For those of you who are looking for, who don't buy it and think, well, things are going to go up, I'm not going to listen to this guy. He's a Cassandra. The Pax World Fund is a wonderful, no-load, green, socially conscious fund. I want to mention them. 1-800-767-1729. See, I can do this now. I couldn't do this before. I can actually say what I really think is nice. 1-800-767-1729. The Pax World Fund. They meet all the social criteria, life-supported goods and services, non-war related industries, firms with fair employment practices, sound environmental policies, everything. I mean, they meet them all. It's a no-load, open-end, balanced mutual fund with economic and social investment criteria since 1970. 5 years, average 10.6 a year, 15 years, 12.43. It's a good fund. I'd wait, though, personally, but that is a good fund if you're going to buy a mutual fund. That's a good one. I'd wait till the market has a little bit of a correction here. The Dow right now almost hit 4,000. I'd buy it anywhere below 2. I'm sorry? Initial investment is generally $1,000, most of those. I have another fund. It's a risk fund. This one's for those of you who want to play right now and make some fool around with my theory of what's going on. It's called the Robertson Stevens Contrarian Fund. 1-800-766-3863. And I get nothing from these, by the way, just so you know. I just like this one. They're expecting the Dow Jones. They're worse than I am. These guys expect the Dow Jones to fall to 1,500 within 2 years and inflation to soar to 6% annually. Now, these guys are really bearish. Of course, they did 5% the first quarter. They made 5% this first quarter of the year, while the average stock fund lost 3% the first quarter of the year. So they only got launched last June when some people became aware of what's going on. And since then, they've averaged almost 16%, which is not bad. They've got 35% of North American companies that are in emerging markets, Vietnam, Mongolia, Guyana, and other places. They've got a lot of money in short positions. That means you're betting on things going down. Another thing for those of you who want something conservative, 3-year Treasury notes. Real simple, US government backed. 1997 of May of 97, yielding about 6% right now. Real short term. Short term money is where you do things right now. If you just want to be safe, no risk. Okay? Be careful of annuities. That's a big thing people are pushing. Let's get an annuity. You don't pay anything up front, and the money compounds without taxes. Oh, it's wonderful, and you can't take your money out for 6 years because of these back-end fees, but hey, let's get them. Not a good idea either. Annuities right now, you get locked into an interest rate, and if rates are going up, it's not the best idea. Okay, I just want to briefly, there's my watch. God, we've gone through this fast. I need more time. Okay, I just want to briefly tell you something about taxes. Those of you earning under $100,000 a year, I'm going to address most of you guys. Any IRS agents in the room? Okay, because you got to leave if you are. All right. First thing you do is get yourself an aggressive accountant, okay, because the government's coming up with great ways to take your money. They come up with all kinds of wonderful ideas. For you guys, the best thing to do is a home business deduction. Offices, home business offices, you all qualify. Why? You pass the 2 IRS tests, the essence test, they call it. The essence of the taxpayer's business is performed in the home, and it generates revenue in the home. Wonderful deduction. You can use it. Use it. Why? And you also spend your time there doing it. So you meet both things. You can deduct your home office prorated on a square foot basis. That means if you have 2 rooms exclusive for your office, you can deduct the square footage based on your mortgage payments, your rent, whatever. You can use your phone. You can use your taxes, your utilities, your computer, all of it. Just keep simple little logs or keep something. Okay, the IRS just wants to see something that's written up. Okay, but all of that is deductible. A lot of it's deductible. Multiple cars. If you have a car, designate one that's exclusive business use. If you have one car alone, just keep a log again. Write up a little log saying I drove this much during the year. That's all deductible. Business expense. This trip up here, business expense. You have to start thinking in terms of my Celtec car, my Celtec boat, my Celtec plane, my Celtec Rolls Royce. Okay? Think in those terms. Okay? Get that going. Keep a little log. It doesn't have to be anything official. You'd be surprised what they'd accept. You know, it's kind of like a rug sale, a Persian rug sale. They're a lot of fun. You go in, you negotiate. It's kind of like, let's make a deal. You want to be a little aggressive. Get yourself an accountant who understands what's going on and will work with you. Hire people to do things for you, mailings, phone work, they're independent contractors, your children. All low-level labor is a write-off. It's all business related. Get a group together. Buy yourself a house as a Celtec office. It can have a pool and tennis courts. It's still an office. Okay, the IRS will allow it if business is done there, primarily, if that's what you're doing. Whole house. It's a business office. It's also a real estate investment, but we won't talk about that. It's something else. And open an IRA SEP, a Simplified Employee Pension Plan. You're all eligible if you're making a certain amount of money. 15% of your net after Social Security, up to $30,000 a year, it's 100% deductible. And Boy, I got a lot of good things. Get yourself a will. Don't forget. That's important. I wanted to mention that. And an IRA SEP. It's a simplified employee pension plan. You don't need employees. It's just you. And you can put in up to 15% of your net after Social Security taxes every year, up to $30,000 a year. 100% deductible. It's a wonderful thing. It's the government's gift to us. And all entertainment and business meals today are only 50% deductible. Meals under $25, you don't even need receipts. So you could go out to lunch every day of the year. Just keep a little log again. Little log. Get these little logs, one for the computer, one for the phone, one for the business meals, one for travel, one for the car. You know, it's just a record game, okay? Thank you all. Thank you. Love you all.